All right, we're live now.
Damn.
So I'm going to use my phone. Dadgummit, it's showing the wrong screen. There we go. I figured it out. Just so y'all know, since we are live, this is Cash, and I'm here with the great Alex Schaefer. He's an artist, and I'm a chicken farmer, so we are not computer technicians. But we make it look good. All right, so I'm sending Alex the Pilled link now. And Alex, if you're not on Pilled already, I suggest it. It is the ultimate free speech app, constitutional free speech. I mean, you can't go on there and say you're going to kill people. But within reason of, what's accepted universally, it's pretty legit about being a free speech application.
Wow, cool.
I mean, I've been very happy with them. Any help that you need on the site, even if you want to become a streamer, they're quick to jump in and offer you any help that you need. The community is awesome. They're the same way. I mean, they're people offering to do screen shares and teach me how to set my streams up.
All right, I just got your message here.
That's a very awesome community. That is the link for Pilled.net, and that's where we're streaming to tonight. But I'm going to start recording here in just a minute, and then maybe a week from now, we will post it to YouTube as well.
Oh, good. You got a YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
Have you tried Rumble, too?
I've got Rumble, but the site has been very buggy for me. I think I might have uploaded one or two videos on there, but it wouldn't let me go in and edit my profile at all. It wouldn't let me edit my name or what email address I wanted attached to it. So I kind of flittered out on it. Pill's just been my home base ever since.
Well, shout out to Pilled. I never even heard of it.
It's another one of those parallel economy type deals, and even like Salty Cracker. If you've ever heard of Foxhole, that's what it used to be called. Foxhole and Pilled is the same thing.
All right. There you are. You're like on the page, man.
Salty Cracker, even in his early days, streamed on there. Woke Societies, that's really the channel that he does most of his work on. I'm posting our Twitter ad now.
Man, you are shadow banned on Twitter like nothing doing. Like, I retweet your stuff, and it just there's no traction.
And see, people think that and some of it. So this is another one of those controlled opposition type deals. So, for example, you take a Candace Owens and you quote unquote cancel her in the eyes of, with the media. Well, our side automatically says, okay, well, if you're being canceled, then you must be on point. You must be over target. So they will intentionally, just like they did with Tucker, they will pretend to cancel him. That will be his humiliation ritual. And after going through the humiliation ritual, they get this massive following, this massive, upswell of support from, quote-unquote, the base. And I think the shadow banning thing a lot of times is used by some of them. Oh, man, I'm shadow banned. But a lot of us at smaller accounts, really are. And you can say, oh, well, if you posted better content. Bro, I have seen my post come before somebody else's and then post just about word for word what I posted, and it get booms.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they copied me, but mine would be, like a couple hours before theirs, and the only shares I would have would be from like you, my brother, or one or two other of my ex-friends that follow me pretty loyally. It's most definitely like being in a box.
Yeah, and like we were talking, because I made that post where I was saying, do I want to get a blue check?
Yeah.
And you were kind of like, well, you got to go through all this verification stuff and send them a picture of yourself and your ID. And I'm not that fond of that idea. But honestly, I think if you don't have the blue check, then you barely ever get seen by anybody but your other fellow no blue checks.
Well, check this out. This is something I've heard from a lot of my blue check friends that still only have a couple thousand followers and still are not getting near the attention that they should be getting for the posts that they're making. Like, they make really good posts. And they said, it's almost like, and I'm not saying that Twitter is the devil, but it's another one of those, lies of the devil where it's like, here, if you get this blue check mark and you give up your data, give up more of your information to us, we'll give you a bigger voice. We'll give you more traction. But then you give up all the data and all the information, you might get, 10 more likes a post or something, but most people are still like, man, why do I never see your posts? So it still varies based off of what you post. Like, if you are a MAGA retard, and I'm not saying, if you support MAGA, you're retarded. But I'm saying, like, one of the hardcore, Q is right, and you're still covering Trump after all this Epstein crap.
Yeah.
Then you're going to get traction because that's the narrative that they want pushed. Or if you're an Elon supporter, if you support one of the main narratives, your accounts are going to get a little more push for the posts. It's just part of the algorithm.
Yeah.
Twitter, and this sounds insane, and I'm going to rant for a minute, but people need to realize Twitter is not just a social media platform. When you look back at LifeLog, and I'll pull it up. You've heard of LifeLog, hadn't you, before, Alex?
Yeah.
So in 2004, and I can remember this because it was a day before my birthday, 2004, February 4th, DARPA had a creation called LifeLog. And the intent and goal of LifeLog was to get a person to log their entire life, to record their every movement. So you get influencers to post what they eat, what they wear, where they've been, and people like to copy. People like to be part of the club. So people follow and do what, the celebrity that they like does. Ice bucket challenge, all this stuff. And they get you to openly and willingly give them all of this information about yourself. You want to fill your profile out all the way. You tell them where you work. You tell them who your family is. You tell them who you're friends with, who you associate with. You put your phone number in there. They've got access to your messages. All of this data that you're openly giving them about you. And at this point, they can put every bit of the data that we've given them into the AI, into the simulation. And this sounds crazy, but this is all like stuff that has come out. This is all stuff that's been acknowledged. They can put all of this data into the simulation and pretty well predict your every movement. That's why they say, Facebook knows when you go poop based off of how long you're sitting in a certain spot every day. They're able to track your bowel movements. You all know Harari from the World Economic Forum, said free will's over. And, that you carry a KGB agent in your pocket with you every day. And, you've given them access to your camera, your microphone. People have posted videos where iPhones take pictures, like every 30 seconds, that little light flashes. They're taking pictures of your surroundings. Of you, of everything around you. They're getting, full scope of the world. And they've even said now that certain internet providers are offering a service where your Wi-Fi router used in conjunction with the wiring in your walls. This is something that people said was a conspiracy theory 5 years ago. The Wi-Fi router used in the conjunction with the wiring in your walls bounces the frequency around and can tell you if there is a human or an animal or anything in your home and where exactly it's located.
Yeah, I've heard that. That they can use the Wi-Fi signal to kind of like create a 3D map of whatever spaces that the Wi-Fi is broadcasting to.
Okay, now think about all of this. This is what people don't do. Like, they hear all of these little stories and they fail to put it all into one big picture story. You feel me? And in this scenario, we know if they have the technology, if they have the capability, they're going to use it. Period. Right. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they have the capabilities, it's going to get used. So if you take those capabilities that they're just now telling us about, that's the next thing you got to keep in mind. All of our technology essentially comes from DARPA. So nothing is leaked out to us until they're ready for it to be leaked out to us. Until it's already been weaponized, until it's already been, manipulated, and they'll sell it off to the highest bidder, Amazon with Alexa. And these are the stipulations. You've got to leave these back doors in for us. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And you get to be the front man. That's why Elon Musk bought Twitter. Elon Musk, was the highest government contractor. So what someone like an Elon Musk does is he does things through the private sector for the government that the government would never get away with doing. So whereas the government couldn't have gotten away with outright buying X or Twitter or whatever and, stealing all of our data like this, the private sector can get away with it.
I know. That's like the big workaround. That's what Palantir is. Palantir is like privatized CIA.
And see, that's where Elon Musk comes into play because he works as an arm of the military-industrial complex, buys Twitter, quote-unquote, buys Twitter, and all of these government operations are being run on, on a regular basis. That's all Twitter has become at this point is a giant Psyop app. Yeah,
and just data scraping. I mean, all those conversations, they feed that into AI. It trains it to sound like a person.
Yep, and see, that was the next thing with Elon is his original tout was to tout free speech, and everyone was cheering about it. And I said, this is their goal with that. If they can, quote unquote, give you free speech, you're going to feel uninhibited, to talk however you want to talk, and they can get a more accurate model for the AI so that when the AI has these conversations with you, it can more easily blend in. Look at Mecha Hitler Grok.
Yeah.
That was intentional. That wasn't a mistake. That was a psychological operation.
Right. I kind of feel like, when Elon hid the likes from the public, then that made people like content because they felt like, oh, no one sees it. Well, so I'm gonna like this anti-Zionist post.
Another thing I think something that come with that too, though, is that they can artificially inflate likes.
Oh, okay, yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
See, Elon Musk has famously said, "Whoever controls the chat bots controls the world." Because they can build public perception off of this. So like when I was referring to our technology coming from DARPA, they're never going to allow anything to come out to the public until they've got something that's at least, 40, 50 years advanced.
Right.
Period. So with that being said, the AI models and stuff that we're seeing now is what they're just now giving us to play with. So when they're making these AI videos and stuff, it was like they were saying that the Biden videos during his presidency didn't look real. There's a possibility that they weren't, and I'm not saying that they weren't, but there is a possibility.
Yeah.
Like we have no clue how much further advanced they really are versus what we've seen.
Yep, you're right. They are always way ahead of the curve. I mean, isn't there some story about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs going to like Bell Laboratories when they were young and basically shown a computer that already had Windows and
Let's check
a
that out.
desktop and all that
All right.
stuff.
Hold on just a second. Steve Jobs. Jamie, pull it up. That's what we're doing. And Bill Gates, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it says, Jobs famously accused Microsoft of stealing the idea but Gates countered by pointing out that both companies had essentially borrowed the concept from Xerox. Yeah, so they went to Xerox laboratories and they were given a tour of a computer that already had Windows and a graphic user interface.
Send me the link for that on Twitter.
Shit, I just Googled Steve Jobs, Bill Gates shown Windows.
Is it Ranker? Is that the name of the website?
No, I just typed it into Google.
Let's see here. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Bell Laboratory, shown Windows, right?
Yeah, it's Xerox. It's like Xerox Park or something like that. PARC.
See, I hadn't heard this, but it's very, very, very interesting. The Xerox thieves. Here we go.
Yeah. So I mean, I just think that like you're saying that there are entities that have these technologies way ahead of the public, and they just kind of drip drop them out, and I mean, you know, who knows where they're getting it from?
Well,
but yeah, it's a fake story.
Some of it, this like really life changing to us. They have to prime us for it because, like, you couldn't. It's kind of like how the Psyops, they're talking about you have to lead people into this stuff because if you exposed all of it at once, it would just break people's minds. So some of this technology and stuff that they're coming out with, and one of the many reasons that they keep it from us is because they have to use movies and TVs to prime us for it, to be like, okay, well, that might actually be possible one day.
Yeah.
And that way, whenever it does come out, we're not just culture shocked by it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, predictive programming, I think they call it.
And see, we call it predictive programming, but they call it revelation of the method.
Yeah.
That's what the secret societies call it because it's their way of revealing to you the method by which you're being enslaved.
Right. It's almost like they have to.
They do. Because it's like there was a story in the Bible, and I'm going to get crap in the chat, I know, because I can't remember the king's name. I think it was Balaam. But he was trying to curse Israel. And God's hand of protection on Israel was so strong that nothing that he did was working. So, long story short, the only way he was able to do anything to them was to get them to willingly accept it by giving them the temptation. Because they had to bring the curse on themselves because otherwise God's hand of protection was on them.
Interesting.
And that's kind of the same idea. Like, they're telling you what they're doing. They're telling you how they're using this technology and what the implications are. And if you continue to go along with it or you continue to believe it, that's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
On the Steve Jobs thing, it says, hold on. How long is it? Oh, man. I'm not reading that whole thing. Y'all don't want to hear me read that whole thing. I will post the link, though. That's what I'll do. Ha! Look at me using my big head. I will post a link on X. That way anyone who is interested in reading it can do so, because I would like to come back and read it here in a little bit myself. I did not know that. I'll tell you another interesting theory with the Steve Jobs I've heard, and this is getting way out there, so I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with it, but it is wild. So we know Jim Morrison from The Doors, right? You know, his dad was in the military and was like one of the head guys over the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yep, I've heard that.
All right, so the same goes for a lot of the celebrities and actors and musicians. And oftentimes they fake their deaths and bring them back as, you know, other quote-unquote characters to continue the psychological operations.
Yeah.
One of the theories is that Steve Jobs and, dadgummit, what's his name? John Lennon were one of those situations. Because when the 70s and 60s, when they had the quote-unquote British invasion in music, it was called the British invasion partially because a lot of the bands and a lot of the artists that were coming over here were psychological operators. I mean, that's why they were coming over here. They were coming over here to change the morale and change, you know, the culture of our time.
Right.
And, like, they would guilt people into supporting Vietnam, for example. They created the hippie movement so that, kind of like they did with woke, they created it so that they could attach the things that they didn't like to this nasty group that they created. Because the hippies were known to be nasty, stinky, smelly hippies, right? Commie hippies.
Right.
Well, they were also anti-war. So if you had a little bit of sense and saw through what was going on and spoke out on it, they would say, "What are you, a dirty hippie?" And you'd shut your mouth and go back into compliance.
Yes.
And that's what they've done now with the woke. That's one. The Psyop has a lot of truth to it, and that's why it works so well as a psyop. Like, one of the posts that they repeat, and I'll throw this in there real quick too. One of the things that I really don't like about Q that just really eats me up about it is how Christians will recite Q posts like their Bible verses. Like, they've got this shit memorized. It's wild, dude. But one of the posts, it says something, thank mirror. And I'm thinking, MAGA is the mirror opposite of woke. It's the same cult, it's just the mirror opposite of it.
Right. With a different cultural, social issue they're trying to foist.
Yep. Wild, ain't it?
Yeah. Man, you got this shit figured out.
Not really, but it sounds good.
I've had this notion that after I got, visited by the police about these paintings I was doing.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna pull those pictures up while you're talking about it.
That they used me. Now I have no proof of this, but I could have certainly been used to train predictive policing.
Yep.
To where they would try to guess which burning bank I was going to paint next by looking at my Google searches, my searches, my location data, and that's why nothing really came of it after the story really blew up. It was kind of like I've never been harassed by the cops, or I know artists painters that have painted paintings with logos in them.
Yeah.
And they'll paint a painting like with a Taco Bell in it. It's like a cityscape or something. And they've gotten harassed by corporations.
Probably sued.
Because they were saying, you can't paint our logo in your painting. And I don't know if they just capitulated and they could have stood up for themselves and said, well, this is transformative. I'm an artist. Screw you. I'm going to paint a cityscape and there's a Taco Bell in front of me. So whatever. But I mean, I'm painting paintings of banks on fire with visible logos of all the banks. And I've never had any of them come up to me and be like, fuck what you're doing. So it's kind of like I'm an untouchable.
What you do is called open air painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's explain to the audience what open air painting is exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a French word.
I'm pulling your pictures up now.
Yeah. People call it plein air painting, which is French for open air. And it just means that, you're not painting in your studio. You're painting right in front, outdoors. You could be at the beach, or you could be in the mountains, or you could be anywhere. But you paint on location from life directly, looking at it. You're not working with a photo. You're not, whatever. And so that's what I did with these, I've always done plein air painting. I love it. It's part of my practice. I do studio paintings as well, but I've always loved plein air paintings. And I would do urban landscapes when I was living up in LA all over the place. And, starting around 2010, I was kind of made aware by some of the people I was listening to in the news about the financial crisis and what the real problem was. And then these bailouts came, and I was like, we are bailing out criminals. Like, they were breaking the law, and they got their ass handed to them, and we're giving them billions of dollars now. So I just kind of got this notion in my head that it just popped in my head. Like, I'm going to do a plein air painting of a bank with the roof on fire. And I went out and I did it. And that very day, that was when, the cops first came. It was in 2011. It was about 2 months before Occupy Wall Street happened. I remember it exactly. Because it was the spirit of the time. Everyone was just waking up and was angry, and this just felt like a perfect way for me to kind of combine something I'm already doing and also just kind of make like a political statement,
And explain this one to me. So when you were talking earlier about the logos being painted in the paintings and stuff.
Yeah.
What would be the difference in having a logo in a painting and taking a picture or something? Really?
Honestly, painting it is, if someone like took a photo of a bank and went into Photoshop and made it look like on fire, I don't know. I mean, there's this whole concept in art called transformative. And there's been lawsuits about it. Like there's this one artist, Richard Prince, and he literally took other photographers' photos without their permission and then blew them up on canvases and then painted a bunch of brush strokes and did a bunch of stuff on top of it. And he got sued by the original photographer whose photos that he stole. But in court, they said Richard Prince, what he did was transformative, and so you can't sue him for using what he did. He created a new work of art, And so to me, just the act of painting from life is transformative, So it's a weird thing. I mean, it is something that has been litigated.
So,
and I've never had to worry about it. They don't touch me. I mean, I think it's like David and Goliath. They realized like if they started coming down on me, they would have blown me up even bigger.
Yeah.
So they just went hands off, like fuck this guy.
And it would have made them look so foolish.
Oh, I know, and I'd have blown up even harder. I mean, like, for example, I know for a fact, like when I was at this gallery called The Hive, the guy that runs The Hive is from Ohio. And there was a show that they were having, and this was maybe a year or so after I was doing these burning bank paintings first. And he had a friend of his visiting from Cleveland.
Yeah.
And besides New York, Chase Bank's biggest, their second biggest corporate office is in Cleveland, Ohio. And this friend of my friend who ran the gallery said to his friend, "Oh, you got to meet this guy. He paints Chase Bank on fire." Well, his friend worked. He was a VP at the Cleveland Chase Bank office, and he walked up to me, and his eyes were bugging out, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting you. You have no idea." They sent an inter-office email to Global Chase Bank. Every single employee got this email about how, it had a picture, and they were saying, if you see this person, do not approach them. We do not know, if they're, what their intentions are. Call the police immediately. He was like, holy cow. They went completely off the rail.
Do you mind if I pull your video up on screen for just a second so people can see you?
Sure.
All right,
Can they
y'all.
see me?
So, does this guy right here look like a terrorist to y'all?
Hey.
Does he sound like one?
And you know what's so funny? When those first cops in that photo that you shared, that I had the wherewithal to take some photographs, and they wrote up an incident report and whatever. They kept asking me, do you hate banks? They really wanted me to use that word hate, because hate crime is like one of these kind of bullshit legal things where it's like it goes into another level of criminality when it really shouldn't. I mean, we have laws against crimes, but calling something a hate crime, oh no. And they were like, do you hate these banks? They kept saying, even, part of my lore is 3 weeks after these cops were walking up on me on my easel there in Van Nuys, I had 2 Homeland Security, LA office, whatever, come to my studio, and they kept on the same thing. They're like, do you hate these banks? And I just refuse to use that language, But again, they went hands off on me, because I think they knew that they were only going to garner more sympathy for the things I was saying if they kept pressing,
Well, that's like some of y'all know and some of y'all don't. What's it been, Alex? Like 3 months ago, I was arrested for a false DUI.
Yeah.
So, right before that arrest, they had pulled me over and tore my vehicle apart. I mean, tore it apart to the degree where I almost had to turn around and go back and ask them where my wallet was, because they had stuck it in a bag of trash that was in my floorboard, up under all the trash and everything, so I'd throw it away and wouldn't have it. So, I got pulled over yesterday. I had a tail light that was out, so that was on me. But the officer that pulled me over was the canine officer that they had brought when they tore my Jeep apart. And when he realized who I was, I'm not going to lie, his whole demeanor changed. He went from, stern and straight to, man, I know you get a hard time anyway. I'm just going to give you a verbal warning. Don't stress it. Get it fixed quick as you can. He said, we're not all assholes. So that was pretty neat.
Huh. Glad to hear, some kind of, maybe they know that they screwed up.
Yeah. As soon as he realized who I was, his whole demeanor shifted, and it didn't seem like a put on to try to get you to lower your guard. It seemed genuine. He's like respectful, kind of joking up a little, cutting up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it really bothered him, because they really put me through it that day. They messed with me for 45 minutes on the side of the road, and all they did at the end of it was giving me a warning for my front passenger side tire being just a little bit slicker than it needed to be.
Oh my gosh.
But after 45 minutes, they have to give you, a warning or something because the boss going to want to know why you're sitting there that long.
What were they like, searching your car with dogs or?
Oh, yeah. See, originally, he pulled me over. I don't even remember what the excuse was, but it was a bogus excuse to begin with. I mean, obviously, I didn't get a ticket or anything. I just got a warning for a tire. And asked me to get out. I got out, and he brought me over to the front of the car. I leaned up on the bumper, and they get mad because I've got an issue with my eye. I was born with one of my eyes. It doesn't really have any movement. So if I try to look at my nose, my right eye is still straight. Like it's got very limited range of motion. So right off the bat, when they're like, follow my finger with your eye, they can't do that. They don't like that. They think I'm messing with them. So then they want you to do the physical sobriety test, tilt your head back and all that crap. Number one, I know that's a setup. I'm not stupid. I know how the game's played. Number two, I've broke my back in 5 places. I fractured my neck in 3 places. I've got degenerative arthritis and degenerative disc disease, and I work 7 days a week. So I'm not doing a physical sobriety test. Tilt your head back, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
I said, I'll do a cognitive test all day long. So it tells me to close my eyes and count 30 seconds in my head. And as soon as I hit 30, open my eyes and say stop. I get to 28 and some SOB's in my face and says, hey, trying to scare me and throw me off. And I look up and there 2 more carloads showed up while I had my eyes closed, and they've got the dog out going around my vehicle.
Jeez.
I've got a barbecue sandwich on the dash or on the steering wheel, and the window's open. So the dog's going around my vehicle, and of course it starts hitting on the driver's side window. And he's like, well, it's hitting on something. I said, yeah, I got food on the dash. Well, it's good enough for us. We're searching it. Everything that was, I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and everything that was in the front of the Jeep was in the back of the Jeep when they got done. And everything that was in the back of the Jeep was in the front of the Jeep. There was stuff missing, stuff broke, money missing.
Wow.
They went through my wallet, admitted that they went through my wallet. And he come back to me at the front of the cop car and said, you don't need to ride around with THC cartridges. We saw that you got your THC card, but you don't need to be riding around with cartridges. Well, I don't have cartridges. I don't use vapes. So I told him, I said, go back and get it and show it to me, because if there's one in there, it shouldn't have been in there to begin with, and I want it out. You can dispose of it. Well, I'm not making a big deal, man. I don't see why you are. I said, because there's not one in there. I'm proving a point. So he goes back to the Jeep for about 5 minutes and comes back with a cardboard box that the nicotine vape juice comes in.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, it literally says nicotine on the side of the box. And he said, well, it's got a smiley face with its eyes X'd out. I said, okay, so we're not Egyptian. We don't write in pictures. It's literally got the word nicotine on it, dude. So they just wrote me that warning for a tire that was a little too slick, and that was it.
Jeez.
Because I knew
they railroaded you.
The one time that they arrested me is the one time that they didn't let me record. He wouldn't let me get my phone.
Yeah.
And his excuse for taking me in, he said, well, your eyes are not dilating properly. And I said, man, if you've had as many head injuries as I have, yours wouldn't either. But
crazy.
What do you see? All right, so with the banking, right? We already know how they're gathering data about us. Well, applications like CashApp, for example, if you try to send somebody money, it will not let you send them money without putting something in the box where it says what the money's for. So this is like early steps to keeping track of every dollar you spend, to the degree where your entire life is being recorded from everything you say to your financial transactions.
Right. You can just put toilet paper in there every time.
Oh yeah. Well, I
What is
usually
this?
make it fun. I put over the pants stuff or that meeting under the bridge, something to embarrass them a little bit. But what do you think? Where do you think the Palantir and the Big Beautiful Bill come into this, personally?
Well, I think that Palantir is it's like the Patriot Act privatized.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's kind of like you were saying earlier in the conversation. The government has restrictions on what they can do. But people are always like, oh, well, corporations can do whatever they want, And so it was just kind of a way to get around constitutional restrictions on search and seizure and privacy and whatever. And then that coupled with AI and data scraping and I think that it's terrible. I mean, I just look at Peter Thiel and I don't like him. He is just dysgenic to me.
What really bothers me is how people have gotten to the point to where, with the way these social media applications are being used to do psychological operations on the people that claim to be truth seekers at this point, if they start finding out truth about their favorite, heroes, they tend to disbelieve it or think that it's a psyop or think that it's wrong. But when you start digging into these Peter Thiels and J.D. Vances and who was that Indian fellow trying to be little Trump? Vivek. When you look into these people's backgrounds, they have very, very, very questionable. Even Jared Kushner.
Yeah.
They are all being tools, being used to implement the New World Order. And see, the global world order is here already. But like with COVID, how every country handled it a different way, even every state handled it a different way, that was a test. Yeah. That's why they call this the American experiment. It's all one giant social experiment. And they're studying how we react to all of these variables. And it's being run through AI. It's being run through a simulation. I mean, whoever controls the future controls the present. Whoever, can predict the future controls the present. And if you can guide the future through leading people to make certain decisions and leading them to accept things, it's for their own protection, This is where the pre-crime and all this kind of crap comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never believed in what we're being told less in my life than the last 10 years. It's I used to not think about these things, and now it's like I don't believe vaccines. I don't even believe relativity.
Nope.
I don't even believe if the earth goes around the sun anymore. I mean, it's really something else. And I feel like there's, like big pharma, they are in cahoots to just try to fucking kill us.
Do you remember what the Bible says will be used as the sorcery to manipulate the people? No. It says pharmakia.
Oh, it does, huh?
Uh-huh.
I'll be darned.
What's mind-numbing to me is to see how obvious this stuff is. Like, even with Trump the other day, are we still talking about this Epstein guy? Like, most of this has become so obvious that it's a show, so obvious that it's a psyop, and there's still, a large swath of the world that still falls for it. And I don't understand it.
I don't either.
And
I don't want nothing to do with it, man.
With the biblical aspect of it, like at this point, the Bible's so on point that it would take more work to try to disprove it than to prove it. It's like they're using it as their playbook.
Yeah. You know, I sent you a couple of links to that guy, Tudor Alexander.
Where'd you send them? Oh, yeah, on the videos?
You said that you'd seen other people repost his stuff and you didn't
Yes.
know exactly who he was because they didn't credit him.
Yep.
That dude is on point. I have been binge watching his content, and it is completely changing the way I'm thinking about things I never thought I would think about, you know. Like the frickin' moon landing. But it makes total sense. You know, interesting story. I don't know if you know it, but this happened around the same time as the moon landing. And it's a fact now that abstract art, starting in the 50s and then into the 60s and the 70s, was a CIA psyop.
That makes sense. You're talking about like the guy that did the soup cans and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it started earlier than that. It started with abstract expressionism.
Well, that's LSD and everything came in, right?
It started to, but the painters that were just, you know, I mean, it was a psychological operation that they were playing, where they were trying to, just like the moon landing, they were trying to one up the Soviet Union. And the concept was that America is living in the future and the Soviet Union is in the past. And the Soviet Union was painting social realism and representational art, and America was over that. We were beyond it. We were painting brushstrokes just for the sake of brushstrokes, and we were splattering paint on canvases.
Hey,
and a lot of you,
I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. If you want to, if you don't mind, tell what you're telling now. And if you don't mind, talk about how all of this and the psychology of it helps affect like the direction of humanity.
Yeah. I mean, I'll keep going.
All right, and I'll be right back.
So, okay. So the idea was that this is American exceptionalism, and America is the future, and our art is superior to the art of the Soviet Union, which is stuck in the past and can't get beyond representation and you know, painting the world and what have you. And you still had American painters that were doing that, like Grant Wood, and they were called American scene painters, guys like Thomas Hart Benton. And they were painting, you know, like farmers and the plight of working class America, which was completely, the critics just ignored it. You know, I mean, it got a certain amount of recognition because it was just good art, but to the critics, it was kitsch, or it was corny, and so the critics, the art critics, like Clement Greenberg, for example, who was big, you know, he's writing articles about Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning, and they are publishing these articles in magazines like Art News and Art Forum. And all these guys are in the club. They all were friends of, associates with, in the same, you know, club as the CIA. They were like finger and glove, hand and glove. And eventually, in the 70s, there was a famous auction that this guy named Bob Skull started selling a bunch of his abstract art. And the CIA was there flooding the auction house with money. because the moment that these paintings started to sell for $50, $60, $70, $100,000, it lended legitimacy to this idea that American art is the greatest. And to them it was a turn up, and it was also just an easy way to, much like what I believe is a fake moon landing, that that America was the future and Russia was stuck in the past. I mean, you can go to Google and you can search the CIA and abstract art, CIA, AASTR, abstract art. And here it is. During the Cold War, the CIA secretly promoted abstract expressionism, including artists like Jackson Pollock, Willem de Kooning, and Mark Rothko, as a form of cultural propaganda. This was done to counter the Soviet Union's promotion of socialist realism and to project an image of American freedom and individualism. The CIA utilized organizations like the Congress for Cultural Freedom to fund exhibitions and publications, subtly influencing the art world and promoting abstract art as a symbol of American cultural superiority. It's right there. It is. There's been books written about it now. It is, it's kind of shocking, you know, and it's not to say that I understand where these painters were going, you know, because at a certain point you understand as a painter, like, okay, I get it. I can paint a head. I can paint realistically. What next? And so there is other aspects that as a painter and the practice of painting that you can dive your mind into and start to branch off from, you know, pure, perfect visual, optical representationalism. But, and you know, and it makes sense that these artists were naturally going there. But at the same time, the CIA just picked up on it and they flooded it with money and they lended it credibility through their art publications and art critics. And then they went into the auction houses and they blew them up. They flooded them with cash. And it really didn't take that much cash, you know, compared to, let's say, NASA. This was like a tiny program, you know, maybe millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, as opposed to hundreds of millions of dollars for NASA to fake go to the moon. But it had a huge impact. And it left a lot of people confused. It made a lot of people a lot of money. Welcome back, Lee. I can see you're back. I turned my phone off so it doesn't go ding.
You're good.
But yeah, I mean, like I was saying to the audience, you could type in CIA abstract art into Google, all right, and there is an AI overview that encapsulates exactly what I was just going on about. That during the Cold War, the CIA secretly promoted abstract expressionism to counter the Soviet Union's promotion of Soviet socialist realism, meaning representational, you know. Abstract expressionism was all about turning representational art completely upside down and disavowing everything that it stood for. So you don't depict anything, you don't paint light, you don't do anything that art had been doing for centuries up until abstract expressionism, you know. And what's crazy is even artists like Matisse and Picasso, who were, like I was saying, I understand the direction that they went. I call them artstronauts. Mm-hmm. But they were always grounded in the real world. They were grounded in the real world. And they took their inspiration from what they saw and what was in front of them, no matter how abstract that they got. Whereas the abstract expressionisms were about feeling and about movement, and they wanted to deconstruct painting and eliminate everything that it had been about for centuries before.
Yeah.
It was an inversion, a total inversion of what we believed in.
Well, another thing we know that it's used for now too, and especially from the '60s till now, you had like I just said his name a minute ago and had a brain fart. The Andy Warhol. So
yeah,
you had the Andy Warhol types, and they were all tied to families from that, from the Roman dynasty. That's like where the mob and everything come from. And it's the same group that's tied in with music, and they use some of the art to push narratives and use some of it as means of blackmail as well. Like, what do they call it? Launder money.
Oh, yeah.
And like what was going on with Epstein, that's nothing new. We had the same thing with Hugh Hefner. That's why you have all these pictures of all these celebrities at the Playboy Mansion. But
interesting.
Yes, there's Shel Silverstein. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he wrote "Where the Sidewalk Ends" and stuff.
Watch this. I'm gonna pull this up, and you'll be able to see it on Peeled when it comes up. But Shel Silverstein was working with the CIA, and with what was Grock saying about that last name? Silverstein.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
Every time.
But yeah, he wrote dirty songs. He was a real pervert. Had a thing with kids. He wrote for Playboy. The Playboy Mansion had tunnels and stuff under it too, and part of that was for the secret operations. And they would get celebrities there. Bill Cosby was one of them. There's pictures of Bill Cosby there. But they would get celebrities there and drug them and, put them in less than savory situations and get pictures and videos and be like, see, we got this on you now, homie.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Man, wow.
So, I mean, this has been going on.
He was like proto-Epstein.
Yep. Let's see. Might be this one. I told you I wasn't sure where this conversation was going to go, so I wasn't prepared. That's it in the article. But you can find, these are Silverstein cartoons here for Playboy.
Yeah, wow. Shel Silverstein was Hugh Hefner's sidekick.
Yep. And
yeah, that's easy to learn because he was like a children's book author.
Exactly. And see, you had Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia had an album called The Pizza Tapes, and that's weird knowing what we know. But Jerry Garcia was a CIA tool, and when they did the shows that they called the acid tests, that's literally what they were. They were acid tests. So Timothy Leary had already been testing acid on prisoners and stuff like that. But with the Grateful Dead, they had these concerts that they called the acid tests. And you had plainclothes officers, plainclothes, agents there documenting and taking notes of how the music affected the people on acid, how certain scenarios affected them. And it was all a big experiment.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of something called Operation Midnight Climax?
I have heard of it. I don't remember which one it is, though. You want to tell us about it?
It was this guy. Oh, what was his name? It's like Charles White or something like that. And they were doing LSD tests on the public unknowingly all the way back in 1954. George Hunter White, that was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they, 1950s was when it was before hippies, but you had beatniks.
Yep.
And this guy, George Hunter White, was
pulled
set up.
Operation Midnight Climax.
Yeah. He was set up with a apartment in San Francisco that had a one-way mirror in it. Mm-hmm. And he was working with prostitutes that would go and find a John, and they would take him back to this apartment. And they would give the John like a massive dose of acid. Like they didn't understand the dosing yet.
Right.
And they would give this guy acid and then they would watch him. Like George Hunter White would sit behind this one-way mirror with like a mini fridge filled with, gin and tonics. And he would just watch this guy trip out, lose his mind with these prostitutes. And then they would eventually just be so freaked out they would leave, and they're walking around the city in 1954 tripping balls, and they would follow them and see what they're doing and see how people were interacting with this person. It is so creepy, dude.
All right, so during World War II, the Germans tried to work with LSD. And they gave up on it because every time they tried it, the scientists said that they couldn't get the soldiers to, they would go hug trees and stuff. So the CIA didn't give up on it that easy. So during Nuremberg, we got a lot of the Nazi scientists. So they continued. That was a lot of what MK was. Is they continued to study how they could create whether it was just changing the mind through propaganda, there were various levels to it, to actually altering the mind completely, to creating sleeper soldiers and stuff like that. So they figured out that the most effective way to create a mind control subject was to use drugs, fear, and trauma, and solitude, keeping them alone. So that was why they did a lot of that. You know what SRA is, right?
No, what is it?
Satanic ritual abuse is one name for it, but it's like the really bad stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they would use that trauma, because that's one of the most traumatic experiences you can go through, is that type of trauma. And they would use that type of trauma coupled with LSD and repetition. That was the other thing, repetition. So they would tell you something over and over and over again. So during COVID, you you're in California, so I'm sure you've heard this, about how LSD and certain mushrooms work in microdoses the same as a antidepressant or anti-anxiety or something.
Yeah.
All right, so that goes to tell you that they're in a similar family or category as the antidepressants, right?
Right.
So if you were trying to use MK in mass on people, you've got an overwhelming number of the population on SSRIs and medications. Remember, we were talking about pharmacia deceiving the nations. So you've got a large swath of the population on medication. There's the drug. Look at the repetition that comes with the propaganda. Like during COVID, there were certain lines that they would repeat over and over and over. The mask, there was a lot of trauma and repetition that was involved with that, plus the drugs, and they kept everybody at home alone, away from people. So they created perfect mind control subjects.
So it was a trauma experience.
Yes, and that's why they did it differently in every part of the world and in every state, is because it was a giant social experiment. So even for the people that didn't get brainwashed into believing in the COVID psyop, they got brainwashed into the mirror opposite, like the far opposite, to where they are now diehard. They believe everything the government says as long as it's their side.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. It was like a massive trauma bonding.
Yep. And that's where the blind patriotism comes from, and they want mama and daddy to be the state. They've already tried to take our kids through the education system.
Yeah.
They have made it so that not only are they able to tax both parents, because both parents are in the workplace now, they are able to teach your kid. And you never let your enemy teach your kid, right?
Yeah.
But we are letting our enemy teach our kid. There was a man, he's passed away. His name was, let me think for a second. He wrote the book, The Underground History of the American Education System. His name was John Taylor Gatto. And he was a New York State Teacher of the Year. Multiple winning Teacher of the Year. And he wrote the book about how the Rockefellers essentially bought the medical industry and the schooling industry. And Rockefeller, was famous for saying that he wanted a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. And he wanted them just smart enough to work in the factory.
Huh.
And that's why our education system's so robotic and everything, because they want everybody to fit into that hole. That's why you don't have these innovators and these thinkers that you used to have, and the majority of our technology is coming from these big companies and from DARPA. And anything that we do happen to think of, since they're listening in on everything that you say, they steal that information and get a patent on it. That's why when you think, come up with ideas, and 6 months later it's already hit the market.
Wow. Wow, yeah, I'm looking at a search of this John Taylor Gatto guy.
Oh, he's awesome. And if you are interested in any of his books, I have them all in ebook form and can send them to you.
Huh. Weapons of Mass Instruction.
I had a copy of the Underground History of the American Education System, and it was huge. And whenever the house burnt, I lost it. But I hadn't been able to find another copy of it since. I found that one on eBay, and it was pretty pricey. But like I said, I've got the ebook versions of them and can send them to you. But I highly recommend it. And somebody still runs his Twitter page and posts like some of his quotes, articles he's wrote through the years. Trying to think. They post like stories that have to do with the types of things that he used to fight for and against.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a 5-hour video on the guy.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
Huh. I'm going to have to watch those.
I highly recommend it. I also...
yeah.
Sorry? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just reading one of these titles, Why Homeschooling Moms Should Learn from John Taylor Gatto.
I would have loved to have the opportunity to speak to him before he passed. Seemed like a really cool dude, too.
He died in 2018, and I hadn't even ever heard of him till you just brought him up to me.
Have you ever heard of a guy, he used to have a TV show. He used to have a radio show that was nationally syndicated, but his base was out of, like, around Atlanta, Georgia. And his name's Neil Bortz.
No, never heard of him.
He wrote some books. He retired around 2016. And he wrote some books like about liberals, and he wrote one book. Have you ever heard of the fair tax?
Uh-uh.
All right, so the fair tax was a creation of, from my understanding, was a creation of Neil Bortz and John Linder, who was a Georgia representative. And they wrote a book called the Fair Tax Book, which outlined how it would, how it would work, how it would play out. And essentially, and you know me, I'm against taxes, period. Taxation's theft. But if we were going to have a tax, the fair tax makes sense in the fact that you're not taxed on the money that you make, you're taxed on what you spend.
Yeah.
So you have your regular bracket of food and stuff like that, which would have a certain percentage tax. And then like luxuries like DVDs and stuff like that would have a higher tax. So if you chose to blow your money on BS, you pay the tax for it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where you choose to keep your money and save up and be, frugal with it and do what you're supposed to do, or you could pay taxes, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole income tax thing tied to the Federal Reserve, it used to make sense, I guess, because the budgets weren't so ridiculous. But now it is just so obvious that it is like a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of money printing that they actually do. That, like, they're not funding the government with taxpayer money.
No.
We're talking trillions of dollars. It's impossible.
Well, essentially, all the Federal Reserve and taxes are doing is keeping money flowing. And because you know as well as I do, taxes are supposedly used in social programs and to pay off our debts. But they don't actually pay off our debts with taxes. They just make more money. So all taxes are meant for, essentially, is inflation control.
Huh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because in all reality, and this is one of the things that aggravates me the most, through propaganda and media, you know about Edward Bernays, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a great documentary about that guy.
For those that don't know, Edward Bernays was the nephew of Freud, wasn't it? Sigmund Freud?
Sigmund Freud, yep.
All right, so he was a psychologist, well-known psychologist.
Yeah.
And Edward Bernays is known as the godfather of propaganda.
He wrote a book in 1920. He coined the phrase propaganda.
Yep.
He invented the word. Goebbels and all those guys read that book.
One of the examples of him doing what he did was there was a cigarette company. Do you remember what brand it was?
I can't remember, but I know the story, yeah.
So, Torches of Freedom is what that's right here on the screen.
Yeah. They wanted to break the taboo against women smoking.
Yep, because if women were allowed to smoke in public, they would smoke more cigarettes and they would be able to sell more cigarettes.
They would double their market, yeah.
And a company hired Edward Bernays to advertise for them. Well, months went by and nothing, no advertisement, no nothing. And they were starting to get mad, and he said, just wait, give me another week. Well, they were having this parade. And he paid all of the females that were in the marching band or marching line, whatever, to light up at the same time. Then he turned around and paid the news outlets to write a story about them lighting up those cigarettes being torches of freedom and liberation.
Yes, because it was tied to women's suffrage.
Now, look at modern day, what they do with BLM and all this other crap. You've got people like Elijah Schaefer that just so happen to be at the right place at the right time to get the award-winning pictures every time of BLM, of January 6th, of Rittenhouse, of a lot of cases that have come out now are factually psychological operations.
Huh.
Propaganda.
It's too much of a coincidence that he's always there.
Exactly. And he's just one of many. And they're all tied to each other. Like Savannah Hernandez was tied to him and is tied to InfoWars and Alex Jones and Blaze TV. They're all in cahoots, both sides. And people get mad because I hit on the right, but I hit on the right because it's the right that has my friends and my family tricked. It's not the left. The left, we know what the left is.
Right.
But it's the right that claim to be these big Christian nationalists and all, all this crap, and are actively working to deceive my friends and family and fellow countrymen in a big way.
Yeah.
And they create the problem so that we will accept their pre-planned solution. And one example of this is the Eagle Pass. You remember when they made the big stink about Eagle Pass, Texas?
Yeah.
And they were, having a riot, fighting. Border Patrol was supposed to be fighting people and all this crap. I've got a video on my YouTube channel where the guy gets in his truck, pulls out his phone and videos from the gate at Eagle Pass about 1.5 miles up the road to the next gate going into Mexico, and guess what? There's nobody around. It's standing wide ass open. Nobody trying to get in, no military, no nothing. It was all just being staged to create that story, to create that narrative on TV. And I'm not saying that there's not any illegals in the country, but they are shaping and forming the narrative about the illegals as they go. And one of the ultimate reasons behind it is, number one, they want to create precedent for using military force.
Yes.
I mean, we had Jade Helm, back in 2015, and this is just giving them the opportunity to use that military force so that then anyone that disagrees with whatever the narrative is can be labeled as, a terrorist or anything else and be used with that same force. So people that are seeing what the AI's doing, if they try to do anything at all to stop it, they'll just be labeled as another wackadoo terrorist or a lefty and silenced, put away. And then the second reason is... Sorry, I had a brain fart again. The second reason is the biometric IDs. That is also like we were talking about earlier with Facebook really being DARPA's lifelog.
Yeah.
Snapchat is also a CIA tool, and this isn't admitted at this point too. And what the filters and stuff really are is a way for them to get your biometrics. And it's the same goal that they're hoping to achieve with the illegal thing. Well, that's why they used Biden as a scapegoat to let all the illegals in. I mean, when you realize both sides are working together, it makes more sense. But they used Biden as a scapegoat to let all the illegals in to create the problem, to which the solution is going to be, we're going to get biometric IDs for everybody. We'll know who you are. If one of our cameras, Palantir, here we go. If one of our cameras picks you up, it's going to know immediately who you are. Just like those tag readers can catch your tag just when you drive by. That was another reason behind the mask during COVID, is so that they could get an accurate biometric model based solely off of your eyes.
Dang.
That way there's no escape. There's no getting away unless you're wearing sunglasses too. It is total 100% surveillance. They've got these traffic cameras up everywhere for your protection. CCTV cameras in every store, every corner, everywhere you go. And if all of that's connected to the internet, you've got an entity with AI that has access to all of that data, all of that information, your biometrics, where you're going, what you're doing. Even if you're not carrying your cell phone at this point, with your biometrics, it can tell, if you're in town, if you're not out in the mountains or something, it can tell where you're at and what you're doing, just based off your biometrics.
Yeah.
And we're there. Like, that's not in the future. That's now.
Right.
I don't remember voting for that. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had this. I've had this notion for a while that, all this like 4G, 5G, 6G. Like, the public is not driving this. You know, the public just wants to watch entertainment and the internet, and it's fast enough.
Yeah.
You know, like you can download a movie in minutes and you can watch it on your TV. That's what the public wants. They're pushing all this 5G stuff so they can run live AI search information databases.
Well, see, now the push is for 6G is what Trump's talking about. And during COVID, that was one of the things that they did was they put 5G towers up on every school, middle school, elementary school, every school. And my brother does cell phone towers. That's what he does. Ow, crap. Sorry, I had a cramp. That's what he does for a living is he, repairs and puts up cell phone towers. And he said that when they take those classes, they tell them on a regular basis, these things are weapons. These things are dangerous. And he said that if the population had even the slightest clue of what was being put up all around them, they would be throwing a fit. But nobody takes the time to look. I mean, it's not like it's a secret. You can look it up, but nobody takes the time.
Yeah. I remember seeing a video of a guy. It was something on the BBC, I think. And they did this test of these like security cameras. And the Chinese government, this was in China, and the Chinese government like agreed to do this test with them. And they sent a picture of the guy to the police in China. And this dude was like they didn't tell him what city he was in. And he was in the middle of this huge city in China. And within 5 minutes, they found him exactly where he was. And these cops walked up to him and arrested him. And then the cops were finally told, what this was about. But it was just cameras, spying on everybody. And they were actually able to recognize this person and then alert the local police. And then the police were told exactly where he was, and they found him and they arrested him. And that's the kind of shit that they want to be able to pull off here. And the only way that they can do that in China is because they've already got like 6G, 5G, whatever.
Well, and see, China is also, like I've said multiple times, they're handling everything differently in every country and in every state to kind of collect data on what works, what don't, what works with this type of people, what doesn't. And in China, that's just a whole different social experiment to begin with. And that is the goal worldwide. Have you heard of the Total Awareness? I think it's called the Total Awareness Project or Operation Total Awareness.
Yeah.
That's
TIA.
Yes, and that's essentially. Well, I mean, I don't know if it was CIA or it may even been an entity of its own, like DARPA or something. But that is essentially what DARPA and Palantir and all of this is working towards, but they're having to push it to Palantir so it's in the private sector. Here it is, Total Information Awareness, U.S. Mass Surveillance.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up on the screen. Give me just a second. Bam. All right. Total Information Awareness, formerly known as Terrorism Information Awareness. So this probably is something that came out of the freaking Patriot Act. It was a system designed to correlate detailed information about people in order to anticipate and prevent terrorist incidents. Sounds like pre-crime to me.
Yeah.
It aimed to create an ultra-large-scale database by pulling together as much information as possible about individuals and making it available to government officials for security and intelligence purposes. So that goes also back to what we were talking about with Twitter and the quote-unquote free speech, is they're able to easily pick out now who's anti-Semitic and who's not, for example. And when these hate speech laws and whatnot go into effect, they already have an idea who you are and where you are. And seeing all of this explosion of noticing, as a lot of people say, is giving an excuse for anti-Semitism laws and things like that. So that's why you have all of this stuff being propagated to you the way you are, is they want you to be racist. They want you to be anti-Semitic or whatever you want to call it, because they need that negative action so that they can push for their anti-Semitism laws.
Right. Which are completely violate the Second Amendment. I mean, the First Amendment. It's ridiculous.
And the next thing you have to realize is that the current Israel, like the Zionists, the Talmudic Jews, those are the people that really trace back to the Roman dynasties, the Roman families. And there's a guy, his Twitter handle is Mike the King. Shout out to Mike. But that's what he does, is he dissects all of this and, traces these lineages back to the 13 main bloodline families. Like, he talks about the Orsinis, and he traces even people like Logan and Jake Paul to the Roman bosses and Roman handlers. They say all roads lead to Rome. And Revelation talks about those that say that they're Jays and they're not. They're the synagogue of Satan. So Rome is repeatedly compared to Babylon.
Yeah.
And Babylon, is what Revelation is comparing this system to. So if Rome is compared to Babylon, and we're seeing all of this Roman iconography in our country, the fascists in the House of Representatives, or the House of Congress, and all of this Roman, everything that we do, is Roman, even down to our legal system and stuff, goes off Latin Rome. And you may as well say this is the Babylonian Empire. We're in it now.
That's just so funny. That is exactly what Tudor Alexander that I was talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he's on. He's like, Rome is the beast.
Yep.
The Catholic Church is the beast.
100%. And the Christianity that the Catholic Church pushes, and I'm not saying that if you're a Catholic, this is what you believe, because I believe there are a lot of Catholics that are not devout Catholics that probably do read their Bible and stuff and don't realize everything that the Catholic Church pushes. But like devout Catholics, you see, even with Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump Jr. and all these dudes that are sporting the, what was that, the Knights Templar? There's sporting the Knights Templar crosses and stuff. Like, if you look in the Knights Templar, they were Gnostics. And they absorbed a lot of the Muslim mysticism, the mysticism of the Kabbalah, and added it to their Gnosticism. That's why the Shriners have a lot of Arabic themes.
Yeah. Like they wear fezzes and they got the moon.
Yep, and the sword, scimitar. You remember?
Yeah, this whole Christian nationalism, not a good thing.
No, it's going to be a gateway for, Revelation talks about that people are going to think that they're doing the will of God, but the deception's so great that they're not.
Yeah. That they're actually, there's this whole idea that if you just do the rituals, that's it. You go to church and you take communion and it's a deception.
Well, and they're teaching a different tribe.
Because there's no priest between you and Jesus.
No.
Jesus is the priest. He's the head guy.
Yeah.
And this kind of hierarchical notion that that there's a mitigator between you and Christ is completely, I don't believe it.
Praying to saints, buying your way into heaven.
Yeah. It's false. And I mean, you could say it's satanic.
100%. You know, the original translation of Antichrist does not mean the opposite of Christ. The translation most closely would mean instead of Christ. So they are offering you Jesus even said, if someone comes to you preaching a different Christ than what we're teaching you, then be him accursed. So you've got even people like Billy Carson that are teaching a different Jesus than what the Bible teaches.
Yeah.
And Catholicism, in a lot of ways, especially the Gnostic Catholicism and Gnostic Christianity, teaches a different Jesus than what the Bible truly teaches.
Yep. I don't believe it.
And, they...
I don't believe transfiguration or what do they call it?
What is
that
it?
That the communion literally becomes the blood and body of Christ.
I think it is transmutation.
Or transubstantiation.
There you go.
It's like, when you really think about it, it's really creepy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can understand that a church would symbolically give you a cracker and some grape juice. Mm-hmm. But for it to, Jesus was talking spirit. He was on a spiritual level when he said, "This is my body.
Yeah.
This is my blood."
He said, "Do this in remembrance."
Yeah. But not like literally that you're eating the blood and the body of Christ.
Exactly.
It feels weird.
There's a lot that's taken out of context and used to fit narratives, just like the people that push, well, how can God let this happen? And people get mad about in the Old Testament where God tells them to go in and wipe out whole towns and whole cities, and kill the livestock, kill the children, kill the women. But they don't do the research to learn who is it that God's telling them to wipe out. Because if you do just a little bit of digging, we talk about the giants. We talk about the descendants of the fallen angels that came into man.
Yeah.
So a lot of these cities that God tells them to totally wipe out and says, don't intermingle with their people or with their tribe, it's because these are descendants of that corrupted bloodline.
Yeah.
It's not like they're just going out and genociding random people. And see, that's why such the push for the quote-unquote Jews. I've been saying that a lot tonight. I guess that's my catchphrase tonight. But the ones that claim that they're Jays and are not, they have them, pushing all the degeneracy on in the pornography companies and stuff like that, so that people will openly get mad and attack that group. Well, even though they're not really true biblical Israelites, they practice the Babylonian Talmud. But from that point, it's easy for them to say, okay, well, since they're evil and they're bad, Christianity is really just a branch off of the Jews, so we can wipe them out too. Every Abrahamic religion has to go because it all stems from those dirty Jews. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's where the Psyops inevitably leads.
Yeah. There's this whole kind of push now. I don't quite get it, but this sort of paganism.
Yep.
That's kind of associated with white nationalism.
Well,
And there's these like, Christianity is Jesus was a Jew, and we should believe in like Thor, or I don't know what that's about.
you've seen HT, hadn't you?
I'm saying what?
Yeah, have you seen HT on Twitter? He's one of the Twitter pages. He, the flyers that somebody made that's got like all of the J's that are in this industry and all of them that are in that industry and all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that come from a website called Goyim TV, and there's this guy named HT that owns.
Oh yeah.
All right, and he's one of the ones that's pushing that Psyop. And if you think about in your Bible, in the Ten Commandments, it says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Well, this is where I think a lot of churches are doing a major disservice. So there's multiple passages in the Old Testament where it talks about God keeping, protection over his people against a god of another people. So a lot of what we would call like the Roman mythologies, Greek mythologies, Egyptian mythologies, they were based off of real things. And the most likely scenario is that these offspring of the fallen angels were revered as gods. So your Herculeses and stuff like that, were gods of the old world.
Right.
And
the mighty men of old.
Exactly. And you have their punishment in the Bible. God said that their punishment would be that once they died, they would roam the earth and they would hunger and not be able to eat, thirst and not be able to drink, and they would have the other desires of the flesh that they wouldn't be able to fulfill. So, in other words, they're demons, they're demonic spirits. So they still inhabit this realm, they still inhabit this world. And a lot of these pagans, just like witchcraft and witches, they still do rituals to these entities. They worship them, they carry out their bidding, and the spiritual warfare is very, very real. And someone that claims to believe the Bible and doesn't believe that needs to catch up.
Yeah.
But that in my opinion, the Bible even talks about how, and I'm sorry to rattle on like this, but the Bible talks about how there's different principalities over different areas. That's what, there's different spirits that inhabit different areas.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what this rise in the paganism and occult stuff is them trying to turn people against God and Jesus Christ and towards the gods of old.
You're right. Because that's their power.
Yep. And so
they're
trying to recruit for the final battle.
Wow. Man, no, it's crazy. Like a lot of what you're talking about, I've been picking up on from listening to this other guy on his YouTube channel. And actually, I've been listening to this long video. He did like a 4-hour video on the Nephilim.
Spell his name out for me.
His first name is Tudor, Tudor.
All right.
And then the last name is Alexander. And then the name of his podcast is Dance of Life.
All right, I got it pulled up right here. This is his actual page. This isn't his YouTube, but he does also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel. And I mean, his video that he did about quantum physics and quantum computers, and then the one before it was on relativity. I never thought about what he's talking about, the way that he's talking about it. And he is so well researched, that just our concepts about physics and relativity is bullshit. And there is a single frame of reference, the ether, that exists, and light is not a particle. Light is a wave. And Einstein just kind of like blew all that out of the water and created this chaotic concept of the world.
Einstein was another psychological tool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really believing it. Because the things that Einstein had to do to prove his theories, he had to continually eliminate one frame of reference in order to say that, like, the 2-clock experiment or the twin paradox fit into his concept of relativity. But the fact is, either one of those clocks or either one of those twins could claim to be, the single frame of reference, and then that once that happens, then it completely counters this idea that if you have a clock on the equator and a clock at the South Pole, that the clock on the equator is spinning faster, and because of that, it's going to go slightly slower. But I don't know. It completely twisted my mind.
I've got to a point with a lot of stuff, especially with science. The Bible even at one part calls science so-called. And what really caused me to get this way was the discussion about the shape of the earth. And at the end of the day, am I going to believe what man says, or am I going to believe what my Bible says? And am I going to take my Bible literally, or am I going to think that it's a fairy tale? Because I can't have it both ways. And I've come to the conclusion that if the Bible says something, it says it for a reason. Every word in that book is there for a reason. And the Bible tells us a lot more about the nature of the world around us than people realize it does, because we don't read it like we should.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's mind expanding.
Very much. I'm going to pull your website up while I'm thinking about it, and I've got the internet pulled up. It is...
Yeah.
What is it?
Paintwithalex.com.
The same as his Twitter handle, y'all.
Same as my Instagram, my Twitter, my website, my Gmail. It's I finally realized you have to just pick one and go with it. Because, back in the day, as the internet's coming up and I'm building websites and starting email accounts, it was like, my email was one thing, and then my website was something else, and my other thing was something else. And then it's like, no, you got to have just like one thing. Like if you just type Paint with Alex, all one word, into Google, into a search engine, it all comes up.
And he's got his social media, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. He's got
I don't do it on my YouTube. I got merch, I got shirts, I got prints. I just opened a store on my website, so I'm starting to sell, just like my non-burning bank paintings. Yeah, and they're like really affordable. Like the price point on my burning banks is like $20 per square inch, but you can get a still life for like $3-5 a square inch. It's very cheap.
And there's some of the banks that are fairly affordable too. I saw a couple.
Yeah, I mean I sell a lot of prints, so that is the most widespread way that people are collecting my art.
One of my favorites is the garden one that I posted on my Twitter, but one of my favorites that are on the website is a liquor store. That's what I'm looking for, and I can't find it. It's so pretty. Yes.
It's the one with the big clown sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's
every time I Circus Liquor, I sell that painting. And Same with Tommy Burgers. There's a restaurant chain that's just in LA or maybe only Southern California. It's called Tommy Burgers.
Yeah.
Every time I paint a Tommy Burger, someone buys it. Yeah. And every time I painted Circus Liquor, someone buys it.
All right, they're loading now. I'm looking for it. There it is. Circus Liquor, and I love it. It's great. I like it. But
yeah, that's the liquor store in the Valley.
Do what now?
In LA. It's a famous liquor store.
Okay. Have you done any other locations in LA, like the Whiskey A Go Go or any of those type places?
I haven't specifically done Whiskey A Go Go. I've done a lot of paintings of downtown, Spring Street, Broadway, Hill, what they call like the historic core of downtown LA.
Have you ever done a Haight-Ashbury?
No. That would be a road trip up to San Francisco for me.
Yeah, I thought that one might be pretty interesting.
I'm sure, yeah.
There's one other
Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah. There's a lot of historical significance to that place as well.
Yeah, and it's funny that hate, it's like it's a synonym with HATE, hate.
Yep. I wonder what Ashbury would be.
Good question. It's kind of like Hollywood, maybe.
Ooh.
You know how they say that magic wands were made from the holly bush or something, or the holly tree.
It makes you wonder if there was some kind of significance to Ash or Ashbury or Ash.
Like ash in your joint.
Yep. There's one other guy I wanted to mention real quick. Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a page on Twitter called Hidden America.
Uh-huh.
And he discussed a guy, the last name of Yarvin.
Curtis Yarvin?
Is that it?
Is that who you're talking about?
I think it is. He's associated with the AI technocracy and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
He's like from what I read, I think that's him. He's like a far right. Well, I know they use that term a lot, but he's literally a far right political dude who is an accelerationist, and their goal is to create the technocracy, the one world government with AI at the head of it. And they're essentially creating Big Brother right in front of you, and they've got you cheering for it because Big Brother's going to be about safety, security, peace, doing the right thing, but you're going to be forced to do so.
Right.
I've got him pulled up, the Wikipedia page pulled up right here if y'all want to look into him, if y'all are interested in it. And I made some posts on my Twitter, but he is...
What's their Twitter handle?
Sorry?
How do I find him on Twitter?
I don't know if he's got a Twitter or not.
Oh, okay. I thought you saw him on Twitter.
Oh, no, I made some posts about him and about how Elon and those Sam Altman and the rest of them are like disciples of his. Even right here it says, Yarvin and his ideas were noted as having growing ideological influence in the American right, including among prominent figures such as Vice President J.D. Vance and venture capitalist and Republican megadonor Peter Thiel.
Yeah. Yeah, there he is. That's Curtis Yarvin.
When you think about these people, and, people are looking at little things that really don't matter. You're being look over here, not over here kind of stuff. And people like this are behind the scenes pushing and putting in money and pulling the right strings it's good to know what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve. He says right here, Garvin has been described as a neo-reactionary, a neo-monarchist, and neo-feudalist who sees liberalism as creating a matrix-like totalitarian system and who wants to replace American democracy with a sort of techno-monarchy, like a technocracy. He has defended the institution of slavery and has suggested that certain races may be more naturally inclined toward servitude than others. He has argued that whites have inherently higher IQs than black people and opposes U.S. civil rights programs. He's an anarcho-capitalist, and like I said just a minute ago, he's backing people like J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel. Elon Musk has admitted to being a disciple of his. And these are people with a lot of influence. Whether it's manufactured influence or not, they're very influential people.
Wow.
I think.
Yes, I've definitely heard of him.
We are a lot closer to, and even Elon and these other folks are talking about the singularity. And it's not hard to achieve a singularity when you've got full control of the media. You've got full control of, like he said, the AI chatbots. He said, whoever controls the chatbots could control the world because you're shaping public perception.
Yes.
In real time.
Because you create this fake crowd, and then you just steer the crowd.
It's scary that things have gotten to that point, and like I'm not scared as in, scared of the situation, but it bothers me seeing how easily the masses on both sides has been manipulated and how effectively people that I know personally have been manipulated by all of this. I know people that are still neck deep in Q.
I mean, Q could have been like all put together by AI.
I believe so.
Like that whole crazy storyline and everything.
I think the Q is quantum.
Oh, okay.
I think, personally. Because most of it is actually happening. Like a lot of it's happening, and a lot of it has double meanings that they're not picking up on.
Interesting.
They say it's going to be biblical. Well, yeah, it is, but not in the way that you think it is. They talk about how Q uses a ton of Masonic and New Age symbolism and quotes. Like they say multiple times, from dark to light. That's a Masonic trope.
Right.
The nothing can stop what's coming is another one of their catchphrases or whatever. But it's a catchphrase because it's the judgment. It's, revelation. Nothing can stop what's coming. One of their biggest ones is where we go one, we go all. And that was actually attributed to a stone that they found on top of Mount Hermon. Because, Mount Hermon is said to be where the fallen angels descended on the earth.
Huh.
And it's also where Jesus called the gates of hell. And this is what's even crazier. So Mount Hermon is where the fallen angels were said to have descended from heaven, or from wherever. And it's also where the UN headquarters is.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Mount
Hermon.
Hermon, located on the border between Syria and Lebanon.
If I'm not mistaken, the UN is either their main base is up there, or one of their big places on top of Mount Hermon. And there was a stone that was found up there. Even in Enoch, it talks about the fallen angels made a pact before they sinned against man. That if one of us does it, we all do it. We're all getting punished for this if we're going to do it. And they made that agreement, and that was the where we go one, we go all.
Huh. Yeah, wow. Mount Hermon. It's in the Bible, that's for sure.
Yep.
Epic of Gilgamesh, Hittite contact, Assyrian royal inscriptions.
And see, like with the Epic of Gilgamesh, if you believe that like I discussed earlier, the children of the fallen angels were these giants, the mighty men of old, then that means that there's some truth to the story of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
And, like the Clash of the Titans, in my opinion, that is the wars between the offspring of the fallen angels. That's bloodline wars. They're fighting over who gets to rule the earth, kind of stuff.
Wow.
Here it is.
Man, I got so many windows open now from this conversation.
All right, on the top, in the United Nations buffer zone between Syrian and Israeli occupied territories, is the highest permanently manned UN position in the world, known as Herman Hotel, located at 2,814 meters, or 9,232 feet. The southern slopes of Mount Herman extend to the Israeli-occupied portion of the Golan Heights, where the Mount Herman ski resort is located. What the hell?
Go skiing, nice.
Yep. And that's like right before we went in to Iraq with Saddam. Saddam had uncovered like the ancient Babylonian city, and they believed the tomb of Gilgamesh.
I've heard that, yeah.
That's like, Hillary Clinton was wanting to know where the body of Gilgamesh was. Well, given what we know about where they're at with all of this, like, edited, create a kid, like Build-A-Bear type thing, they can use CRISPR and everything now to pretty much pick what color eyes your kid's going to have and everything. Well, imagine if they found, which we know they found a lot of these giant skeletons and whisked them away to the Smithsonian and places like that. But all they've got to do now is take DNA from these samples, from these bones, and splice that into these CRISPR babies.
Wow.
The Bible says that as in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man returns. Well, before the flood, that's what was going on. It says that the fallen angels sinned against every animal of the land, every bird of the sky, and every fish of the sea. That was why he sent the flood, because they had corrupted the genetics so bad that was, the only way to wipe them out.
Huh.
And, even when they were talking about going into Canaan, going into the promised land, they were talking about grapes the size of your head because of the genetic manipulation. GMOs, modified foods and stuff. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, and this was all what was going on in those days. And we're seeing a resurgence of it now, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man returns.
Dang. Nothing new under the sun, man.
Amen.
That's another thing Tudor Alexander says all the time. And, there's actually a guy with a podcast called Days of Noah.
Yes, I've seen him.
You ever heard of that guy? He's great.
Yeah, I like him.
I like him too. Yeah, he's good.
There's another good one called Nations Conspire. I don't know if y'all have seen or heard of it, but he's pretty good. He covers current news and, talks about it, exposes the Psyops, that type of thing. Especially when it comes to like Trump and Musk and Palantir and the conservative Psyop. Sorry?
Is it a YouTube guy?
Yes.
What's his name again?
Nations Conspire.
Nations Conspire.
I'll post it on my Twitter right now.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
I see Gordon Frogman in the chat. Good to see you, brother. He said the reason paganism is so entrenched in the religion is because the Trinity is in other religions. God equals the universe and ebbing flow.
Huh.
Well, thank you. The same guy that runs Nations Conspire also has a channel called, I think, Hurting Humanity, and one called One That Can See. His channels get deleted often. He's on like channel 80-something. So he usually keeps 2 or 3 channels going at a time. and just kind of rotates in between them because of the way they take his channels down.
Yeah.
But his main page, he's got a website called A Call for an Uprising.
A call for an uprising.com.
Yep. But if I'm not mistaken, it's a pay site. But the reason it keeps it a pay site is because it keeps the trolls and stuff off of it. And it's not, the subscription doesn't cost much. I'm not subscribed because I'm a broke cracker. But if I had the money, I would subscribe because I really like his videos. He does a great job of breaking down what's going on and breaking down the psychological operations and giving you...
Oh, he's got a Rumble.
Yes. And it gives you ways to explain to people what's going on and break it down without sounding crazy. Because me personally, like, when I'm trying to explain something, sometimes I'll get overwhelmed and worked up and just start rattling stuff off that, unless you've been paying attention for a while, the average person doesn't know anything about.
Right. And then you just sent...
I just tagged you in a Twitter post with that guy's other channel as well.
Oh, all right.
But is there anything else that you would like to cover?
Oh man, I got to log off right now.
That's what I was about to say. It's 2 hours. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it flew by, man. This was a fun conversation. Yeah. I mean, I don't get into a lot of this stuff that gets into my mind too often. So if anybody watches this and they're not ready for, they might think I'm crazy like you, man.
Well, whenever you see what they call normal, do you think being crazy is really that bad of a thing?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. Yeah, exactly.
I don't need your, what is it he says? He says, I don't mind your booze. I've seen what you applaud for.
Right. That's a good one.
But yeah, I'm going to save this video when we log off, and it will be on YouTube hopefully within the next couple of days. But I always stream to Pilled first because Pilled has been my home since I started streaming, and they've been very good to me. I appreciate y'all. Alex, we shouted out. You want to shout out your website and everything again?
Yeah, once again, paintwithalex.com. Paint with Alex everywhere. I'm on Twitter, or X, as they say. Paint with Alex on Instagram. And hit me up. Buy some art. I want to get my art on your walls, man.
And his shirt's on your back, bruh.
Yeah, my shirt's on your back.
Well, I'm going to pull up your video. You can say goodbye to the chat.
All right. Goodbye, chat. Thank you for listening. This has been an edifying conversation between me and Mr. Lee Cash, the chicken farmer.
We appreciate you coming on. I'm going to check the chat one more time, see if there's any more comments. And there is not. So with that, we hope that y'all have a good night. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer, for coming on. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Have a good night, my man.
See you, brother.
See ya.